Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to College Stadium. Tonight we will have a reenactment of the 1939 game. In fact, the first game played in the P.O.N.Y League here at College Stadium. You'll be seeing a 3-inning game. The cars that you're seeing down on the field, of course, are carrying our players that will be representing the original lineups from both Jamestown and Batavia. The very first car, in fact, you see in front of you is a 1956 T-Bird. It's towing a mini T-Bird Classic and the trailer behind it, and that car will be given away at the car show on July 24th, donated by the Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company to benefit the World Series Car Show, and of course it helps to support the Babe Ruth World Series. Our second car is a 1919 Overland driven by Rick Salo. Our second car in line sitting here is the 1922 Pierce Arrow. It's driven by Les Ostrander, and the Pierce Arrow, in fact, was owned originally by Babe Ruth. The 1923 Studebaker is behind it. It's driven by Dr. Charles Sinatra. The fourth car in line is the 1928 Ford, driven by Gene Olafson. The fifth car in line is the 1939-31 Pontiac, and that car is driven by Walt Pelshow. And the 1932 Essex, which is driven by Peter Norlander. Les James, who played third base, he's represented by Bob Bennett. William Cicerelle was the left fielder. He's represented in this game by Dan Bach. Merlin Peterson was the center fielder. He's represented by Larry Wallace. David Aquina played first base. He's represented in our game tonight by Larry Marvell. George Goodell played second base. He's represented by Tony Franchina. George Eli played shortstop. He's represented by Joe Franchina. John Pollock, who is with us this evening, by the way, was the original catcher in that game. And he's represented on the field by Tom Heelis. And Al, I believe it's Al Bucha, was the pitcher. He's represented on the mound by Skip Pierce. Our ceremonial first pitch tonight will be thrown out by none other than Mr. John Pollock, who was a catcher at this game some 50 years ago.
And then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, later May, I got a call from WED that said they were looking for a man to go up to Jamestown to take over a club up there. The Pittsburgh was going to take over. I knew baseball pretty well. Right. But I didn't know anything about running a baseball club from a business end. But I got a quick history from Oliver French. I spent probably an hour with the president of the Pittsburgh Club in his office, and he just told me about the general thing that they were taking over this club. This fellow was Bill Benswinger, who was president of the club. Can I be liable? But one day he approached me at Celoron Park and suggested that it'd be a good idea if I put him on the payroll as publicity director.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if I was smart or dumb, but I said, no, if we don't need a publicity director, I can do my own.
Sure.
He was a little peeved about that. It's very difficult to describe. I played sandlot baseball, town team baseball when I was younger. And I never played in a field that was worse than Celoron Park.
Tell me about the park. If you had to close your eyes and describe the park looking out to the lake, how would you describe it?
Scenery was wonderful.
Yeah.
You had big trees in the left field and the lake behind it, and no outfield fences.
Mm-hmm.
And the right field was a little closer, and infield was, of course, a skin diamond, but it didn't have any space for the shortstop or the second baseman to operate in. It just ended from base to base. And outfield was rather rough. I know the guys that played it out there complained. The worst part was the place for the people to sit.
Mm-hmm.
The stands were old, and there was no bathrooms. There wasn't any porta potties or anything like that in the park. I think we tried to play them late in the afternoon so that they became more like twilight games, except on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Just like an old ball player, and he was a catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he had nubs for fingers. Mickey didn't stay in Jamestown. He commuted from Buffalo for each game.
Mm-hmm.
He'd drive down for the game, and after the game was over, he'd drive home. Well, one time we went to Bradford, and he was either sick, had car trouble, or something. He couldn't get to the game. So I sat on the bench in street clothes. And technically I was running the club, but actually Bill Black was doing it for me.
Right.
And I remember the pitcher for Bradford that day, I think, was a guy named Warren Spahn.
Really?
Yeah. Les was, I believe, in Jamestown, but I believe he went before I got down there.
I think what might have happened, I'm looking at a bunch of names here. Their first game, before the Pirates, they won, and they had guys like Joe Elcata, Paul Gasanovic, David Keena, Chuck Ireland, Ronnie Dolman, Ralph Mead, Bill Ciccarelli, Al Christ, Al Bolson.
No, yeah. Now wait a minute. Chris stayed with us
Did he?
at the start, but he got released mid-season. See, all these players we had in this picture didn't all come in at once.
Right.
They were fed in, so some of those fellows that were on the original club stuck around for a while. And they weren't sent away necessarily because of their ability. It was just a case of filled your team with kids that the scouts knew, I guess. He was pitching for Olean and got released, and he came over to Jamestown to see if he could get a job. And I talked to Mickey, and we had a spot, so we signed him.
And you would actually sign the contracts, Jim?
Yeah,
Okay. On behalf of the Pirates?
yeah. And he had, he actually was the best pitcher we had, I thought. Chuck was a better fighter than he was a ball player.
A fighter, huh?
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this. I think that he became a fighter and fought for the championship. He was always ready to fight when he had a baseball uniform on, I know. We were fortunate enough to have the Pittsburgh Pirates come in for an exhibition game. Of course, they had the Weiner brothers, and that was a great thrill just to meet those guys. But they came out at the park all dressed in uniforms, which all the players did because there was no place to dress there. I didn't hear any direct quotes from them, but I don't think they ever wanted to come back. When I came from meeting with Pittsburgh, my initial visit, Honus Wagner was coming up at the same time, and we sat in the ball game watching the Pirates play until about the 7th inning. And I can remember him telling me that one of the Pittsburgh guys was a bat, and I forget what happened. He didn't operate the way Mr. Wagner would.
Yeah.
He said, I would have just waited for that outside pitch and I would have just punched it out into right field.
Little Celoron Park had at least five Hall of Famers.
Yes, it is.
Wow. And you no doubt were responsible for making that happen.
More or less, I guess.
At the end of the season, the Pirates made a decision to move the team. Did you go with it?
Yep,
And where did you go?
London, Ontario.
London. Were you there the second year there?
Yeah.
That probably wasn't a tough decision for Pittsburgh to make.
No.
Yeah.
I may have triggered it, but I didn't make it. I knew the newspaper guys pretty well, and I guess had a conversation with them, and I indicated that I didn't think Pittsburgh would want to come back there and play at Celoron Park. I know there was an article in the paper about it, and I guess that upset the owner of Celoron Park because he was rather friendly before, but he wasn't very friendly afterwards.
Well, thank you, Jim. This was just terrific, and thank you for
It's
letting
nice
me.
to have you come.
Where are you from originally, Bill?
Rutherford Heights, it was a railroad town about the size of almost Jamestown.
So you're a pitcher,
Yeah,
and right-handed, left-hander?
right hand.
Right-handed?
See,
You're stick with. What was your pitch here, Bill?
pardon?
What was your best pitch?
The splitter.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had a good fastball and a good curveball, but as soon as I get 2 strikes on, I throw that splitter, and it just like a knuckleball, it just dip out of the way.
So that was your pitch?
Yeah,
You signed with the Pirates in 1939.
yeah.
And what did they decide to do with you?
I stayed in the Penn State League for about might have been 2 weeks. And then they had too many people in McKeesport, and they wanted to know if I'd be willing to go up to Jamestown. They just bought this, and I didn't know where the hell Jamestown was. And I said, well, it's all right with me. I said, I want to play ball. And I got up there and had no problem. Well, he wasn't too good a manager. I shouldn't say that, but he wasn't. He went riding a bus with us. He had a V6 Ford, and he'd always ride in the bus. And he wasn't very trustworthy. The business manager used to give me all the money to pay the hotel rooms when we'd go up into Hamilton, Ontario, and all the trips. And Mickey used to pay them. And unfortunately, he was charging about collecting 3 times more than he should have for these. And he put it in his pocket. And when I took the change back to give the business manager, Jim Matthews, boy, he got madder than hell. I said, he'll take out on me. He said, I'll see that he don't. But he said, I'm going to see that he brings the right change back. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, okay. So he didn't treat me too good after that. We made $90 a month.
Is that right?
That's right.
So your contract was with the Pirates.
Yeah.
Now, George Goodell, he played what?
First base.
First base?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about George Goodell.
Very good. Good hitter. Mm-hmm.
Was it much of a team?
Very good hitting. But every time I'd pitch, they'd all try too hard. I'd get beat by 1 run. When this black pitched, they scored 10 or 15 runs. And they all said they couldn't understand it. But I had an average of striking out about 10 people a game.
My gosh.
And that's why I couldn't, but if I got wild, they might as well take me out of the game. I couldn't hit the damn plate for, well, I'd walk about 4 people in a row. And it was too hard to make up. It was on 2nd Street. I lived with an old fellow that he would help me a lot. He played for the Cincinnati Reds years back. And he used to come to all the games, and he said, now take it easy, don't get too anxious, and you'll do all right if some guy got a hit. And I'd listen to him, and he really helped me a lot.
How did you get from your apartment out to the ballpark?
We had, there was a trolley running then. We used to run on the trolley, and the big amusement was at night, was the ball. We used to go every night because they didn't have any lights. And God, that was just a joy to just sit down and listen to her.
Yeah.
You could drink if you wanted to, but that time I didn't drink.
The games were all played during the day.
Yeah.
Did you have much of a crowd?
No. The biggest crowd would be maybe 1,500.
Right.
It was because it was right, most of them were working.
Right.
Sundays we did get a pretty good crowd.
Particular day, in come the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right.
And there was a scorecard of that
Right.
day. And what did you think that here your heroes of the Pittsburgh Pirates were on the same field?
Right. Rizzo was the outfielder. He's quite a home run hitter. In fact, he led the league for about 3 years in a row.
Right.
And Archie Vaughan and Guston was a 3rd baseman. Archie Vaughan played first. And the guy, the bow-legged guy, what the heck was he?
Wagner, Hannes Wagner?
Yeah, he was a shortstop. They had an umpire, I think his name was Shylock. And they used a rubber inflated big chest protector. It was clear there and there. So there was a guy on 3rd base, and when the 3rd baseman made a bad play, he went all the way from 1st to 3rd, and he actually got into 3rd base safe because he'd been out if he'd caught the ball. And I was coaching there, and I just got out of the way to let the ball go. And he stumbled, and he hit on the chest protector, and the chest protector told him his feet sticking straight up in the air. Oh, he was mad when he come back. And why the hell didn't you help me? I said, that wasn't for me to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
George Goodell was the 1st baseman.
Yeah.
At 2nd base, do you remember who he was?
There was a couple there. One was Cam from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of them, but I don't know who the other ones were. And the shortstop was John Lucon.
Right.
And his brother's the one that played for Cincinnati, who was really hit over 300 every year.
And among the other players, a guy named Peterson in center field.
Yeah, he was right there from near Faulkner here.
Mm-hmm. And then there was Barnhart.
Yeah, he was from Maryland.
And then there was
He went up with the Athletics, the old Athletics.
a guy named Taylor.
Yep, Chuck Taylor. He was a boxer, and he was from right near Pittsburgh.
There's a ballpark in Celoron, New York,
Right.
nearby. What'd you think of the park?
Well, it wasn't too good accommodations. It was in an amusement park, and they didn't have any showers. If you wanted to, you can crawl in the tub. But I said, no, hell, I'll just wash off enough till I get back to the apartment.
And then the left field line, that was just went forever, didn't it?
Right. Clear up the lake.
So nobody ever.
But if you hit it, it didn't hit the tree, and they couldn't tell for sure how far. It was only a double, don't matter how far it went. And but a lot of them tried it. I was the only one that ever hit it that went right halfway up the tree. And there was a guy from, I think his name was Hayden Shoup. He could throw. I didn't win the game, but I hit a home run off, and just if there had been anybody on the base, I'd have won it.
Were you a good hitter?
Yeah,
Did you, when you weren't pitching, did they use you?
yeah, quite a few times.
What I've been told is there was no fence in
No
the
offense,
outfield.
no offense. You had to hit the ball in the tree, quite away from the water. As long as you hit the tree or hit the leaves in the tree, it was a home run, and that was a good 350 feet out there.
As I'm looking at the field, here, the picture, and I see the fence, and then I see in the background, they had the roller coaster.
Yeah. That was in right field.
Right. So in right field, there was the roller coaster.
Well, it was far enough out there, it was pretty tough to get a home run. If you hit one in the lake, no doubt about it.
Right.
Couple of our left-handers hit him in there.
Okay.
Bradford had a good team. What was his name? The left-hander for the Braves?
Spawn.
Spawn.
Yeah.
They used to say Spawn and Sane and pray for rain. But Sane wasn't there, but Spawn was there. He had a good left-hander.
So you saw Ward Spawn pitch at that?
Oh yeah.
What did you think of him then?
He was tough, real tough.
Was he about the best you'd seen at this level?
Yeah. We did beat him once.
In your Sportorials, which was done by Stuart McGuire, which simply said, if you don't think Big Bill Abraham Lincoln Black is a throwback to his famous namesake, at least as a rail splitter, then choke on this. Bill split his own bat last Sunday, another yesterday, and 3 Batavians split their wands trying to smash his pitches.
Yeah. I used to throw, would go either way, all depended. If I put my finger like this, it would go in against the right hitter. If I put this and down this way and the ball down here, it'd slide right in against the left-hander. And they'd try and hit it, and the grain would hit the grain
Sure.
and tear it right in half.
You're the only guy I know who has pictures of Celoron baseball.
Yeah, right. You're welcome.
And you knew him through Faulkner. I mean,
Oh yeah, he lived not very far from us too.
what was he doing at the time? What was Hugh? What did he do for a living?
A farmer.
Farmer?
We were on the hill and he was on 394 then.
And so he kind of caught his eye a little bit pitching.
Must be. I used to stop in there most every day or so, and he even showed me how he threw his curveball, and he was a silly. He sent me down to Binghamton once. Hazelton was a Boston team, and the guy's manager was George Topiker, quite a well-known manager. I pitched batting practice down there, and then he had me throw, and he said, well, you got a good fastball, but we're looking for something a little extra.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then I went with a bunch of guys. We went to Rochester to a Cardinal tryout camp. And I think Merlin Peterson they brought him, and I don't know whether they left James or not. And I think George Goodell went there too, I'm not for sure. Coach and Faulkner there, Kenny Anderson, I don't know, you remember him? Well, we all stayed at his house. Either had sleeping bags on the floor, and we had fun down there anyway. Quite a few of us went.
Then from Rochester, what was the next step?
Now that was probably here then after that. He helped me get in the Pony League. That guy that managed their, what the heck was his name?
That Melange? Mickey Lalane?
Yeah, that's him. He was a good friend of Hughes, too.
Did they call you to say, would you like to try out for the team, or? This would be in Celoron and.
I think we just went up there, maybe, I don't know for sure. I can't remember a lot of
Yeah,
that.
it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
Now, Mickey, and you played where that first year?
pitcher,
You're a pitcher,
yeah,
right-handed pitcher.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember much about the ballpark itself?
Yeah, I remember it was there and that, but that's about all.
Was it
I think we used to change clothes over in one of them hotels right there.
Was there-
George Goodell was on that team,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a pitcher from Warren, Hines.
How about Merlin Peterson? He seemed to have played a lot.
Oh yeah, I know him real well.
Tell me about Merlin Peterson.
Yeah, he was picked up by the Cardinals out there at that tryout camp, so he played. I don't know exactly where all the places he played, but he played for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And he played in Jamestown with you.
Mm-hmm.
What position did he play?
Outfielder.
Outfielder?
Yeah.
Good
Hit
hitter?
real fast.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Batted left-handed, so he could get to first in a hurry. Yeah.
Les James?
Yeah.
You see the Faulkner boy?
Yeah. Yeah, his folks lived there on Dow Street. Mm-hmm. He just died here a year or so ago.
What kind of player was he?
He's pretty good. He's a first baseman too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty good. He had a little temper, but he's always kind of fiery.
What kind of team did you have that year? Do you remember?
I don't think we did too good. Well, the year I got out of high school in '37, I had a cousin that lived in Washington, D.C., and my brother and I and Dan Kimmel and Dr. Roger Jacobson, we went to Washington, D.C. to see the All-Star game. Now, I saw Dizzy Dean pitch for the National League, and he thought that he could get that fastball by Lou Gehrig, and he put two of them right out of the park. First one was foul and the next one was fair. So I did get to see them guys play a little bit. I probably played with the steel partition the longest.
Mm-hmm.
We had some good, old Joe Nagel knew everybody in Pennsylvania, and we went down, they'd guarantee him so much money to come down there, but you know, just expensive for it. Played a lot of teams down there. We'd go on Saturday and play someone and stay over and play somebody on Sunday. At the end there, after Walt Brown come home, he played with steel partition for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good fastball, but his curveball wasn't that great, and he used to throw what they call a knuckle curve, like a knuckleball that would break. He was good. Of course, he made it up there. The old St. Louis Browns, I think. What'd they say? He tried to get his fastball by old Ted Williams, and he smacked it right out of the lot. You know what that looks like? The old Oriole field.
Okay. Tell me about that. I've heard that. Where was that?
Well, that's out there on Buffalo Street Extension. Just as you go out of the city, there's a little road, and of course now it's all houses out there. But a little road went up in there,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the old Oriole. I'm sure that is because it had a fence around it.
Was it a city park or was it a private? Did somebody own the property?
No, I don't think it was a city park. It was just outside the city. We played all of our high school championship games in that old Oriole Park.
The very thought of you, and I forget to do the little ordinary things that everyone ought to do. I'm living in a kind of daydream.
Our ceremonial first pitch tonight will be thrown out by none other than Mr. John Pollock, who was a catcher at this game some 50 years ago.
John Joseph Pollock, the first string catcher of the 1941 Jamestown Baseball Club, was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, April 2nd, 1918. Johnny was always a receiver. Since his school days at Tech High in Scranton, Pennsylvania, from which he was graduated with the class of 1937. Johnny later played with the St. Michael's Church team in his hometown, and in 1938 went to Smethport, Pennsylvania, to accept a job in the filtering department of the Quaker State Oil Company. He also played baseball at Smethport with the refinery team. And the first Jamestown Falcons game in the Pony League in 1939 was caught by John Pollock. Jamestown won that game 9-4, beating Batavia. This was the beginning of 60-plus years in the Pony, now the New York Penn League.
A scout working for the Buffalo Bisons at that time was always went to these industrial league, and when they were starting a team here in Jamestown, they were looking for a catcher, so they came down and wanted to know if I wanted to play, and it was just like, asked me if I wanted to go for the truth of my mouth. I said yes. So that's how I got to come up here.
How much they paid, John?
I'll tell you what they're paying me. They paid me more the money that the Major League ball players are getting for lunch money than I made in salary. They were getting $75 a day for meal money. I made $60 a month.
And the next position was John Pollock, catcher. Did you play with him all year long?
No, I didn't play with him all.
This is George Goodell, retired and living in Bonita Springs, Florida, answering a request from Gregory Peterson to reminisce a little about professional baseball in Jamestown in 1939, 56 years ago. We played all our home games at Celoron Park on beautiful Chautauqua Lake. One of the highlights of the season was the day the Jamestown Pirates played our parent team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Wayner brothers, Paul and Lloyd, were active at the time. The game was rained out in the 7th inning with the score 1-1. The Pittsburgh team then took off for Boston. We had many loyal Jamestown fans, some that attended most every home game.
So, Joe Nelbone, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Russ.
You can sit if you like.
I umpired in the first NYP League game. The president at that time was Bob Stedler. Bob Stedler was sports director of the Buffalo Evening News, and he was the first president that, with a committee, they formed. It was called the Pony League. I umpired a game there that Pittsburgh Pirates played. I got the lineup of the game that Oscar Arson and we umpired. There it is, see? He's got the schedule.
That's the original.
And
1939.
so, if any of you have an old schedule of the Expos, that picture of Pittsburgh Pirates playing at Celoron, I'm in the picture next to Hannes Wagner. See, it's an honor, let's say, for me to be next to Hannes Wagner.
Buddy Showers and myself, we were kind of operated as a water boy and a bat boy. And being a water boy then, you had to run across the street to a house and get a pail of water. And they had a cup, ladle they dig it out with, you know. So I got, every other game, one would be the water boy and one would be the bat boy. And it was for both teams. It wasn't just for the one. And I look in here and I see these names. Stan Statuski, pitcher, had a superstition. Them days they left the gloves in the field. They didn't take them into the dugout. And he was a pitcher. He never stepped on third base line, always stepped over that. And then he laid a glove a certain way, superstitious. In one game, the coach, well, he was a manager for the team, I think it was Jake Bittler, Rolian. He walked out from the dugout to the third base coaching box and he kicked the glove, you know. So that was that was fireworks there for a while. But they got over that. It was quite an experience. In here it says about the Pittsburgh Pirates coming to play a game, and I remember that game. And there was two players, brothers, Lloyd and Paul Wayner, I think. Big Poison and Little Poison. And one of them broke his bat during the game. We got it, Buddy and I got it. Well, we had a bat for the summer then. You know, we wrapped electrician's tape around it, and that was our ball bat for the summer. And it was something to be bat boy or water boy for them, you know.
Tickets sold, or did you just pass the hat around?
No, they sold tickets. They had a gate. Of course, most of the young ones from Celoron, they come in the lakeside. I mean, you know, the fence went behind the grandstand all the way along the road, all the way down to the lake. But you
Gotta wade into the lake and come
no,
out?
it was dry enough. They get around there. And then there was a door that went to go out to the house to get the water. You never closed that. Right. You know, they just come in that. When they started out that league, it was going to be composed of, you know, boys and men from the city they were playing for. It was going to be a competition between the cities. The only two that I can remember got on I think they're Rabbit Peterson from Faulkner and George Goodell played first base. That was the only two. I can remember there was Chuck Taylor. After the war, I think he went into boxing, he became a prize fighter, and lived down in Pennsylvania somewhere. And they had a baby, Chuck and his wife. And during one night, the baby was fussing and fussing and fussing, and they got up and get the baby out of the room, and were down in some other room, and the hot water tank blew up and ended up in the baby's crib.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was just a thing that happened, you know. I can remember that. Then there was Eddie Carmichael. He was a kind of a crazy one. Now it's hard to remember all this stuff. It was 1939. I was 15 years old. So, Mickey LaLonge. I had a baseball autographed by every player on the team. And a few years ago, I gave it to Hillman Lyons, who was running the Jamestown Falcons. So I don't know ever what happened to that. I wish I had it now because it could go out to Hall of Fame out there. Right. But I don't know. I have no idea where it went. Hank Buzzinotti was a catcher. Now I don't know if you know this Celoron ballpark. It was all, the only fence they had was the one that went along the miniature railroad in Celoron Park. They had a fence there so they couldn't get out to the miniature railroad. And then inside the fence was all these big trees. They're still there. They're still there. I remember Hank Buzzinotti hitting the ball. He was a catcher for the team, hitting the ball over the center fielder's head and hit the base of one of them trees and come bouncing back right over his head again. And he got inside the park home run. I remember that one. And Stan Statuski, we'd play pepper, you know. And Buddy and I he'd be batting the ball. And every time the last one would be like a boom! Right in between us, you know. I don't know. Yeah. that ended the pepper every day that we did that.
Yeah, seemingly.
These, like the Statuski and Carmichael and Taylor and Buzzinotti and Goodell and Peterson, they were part of the nucleus of it, you know. They stayed around. The rest of them were in and out of there.
Yeah. What kind of condition was the field in?
Oh, geez. Lousy.
Lousy?
Lousy. It was, I think the whole infield was dirt. You know, there wasn't any grass anywhere there.
What did they charge to get into the ball?
I think it was a quarter.
Did they get big crowds, Bob?
Pardon?
Did they get big
It
crowds?
wasn't bad. They'd fill the bleachers up.
Who was in the league at that time, Bob?
Olean, Bradford, Batavia, Niagara Falls, and I think it was London or London, Ontario, because it was a pony league, Pennsylvania, Ontario, New York. And that's the 6 teams that I think that's all it was 6 teams.
Do you remember, Bob, if there was a locker room there? Or did they
No.
someplace else, or?
No. When they left town to go on a game, they had their uniforms on.
They showed up at the ballpark.
Yeah.
Where did the visiting team stay? They were in here for just one game, or did they stay overnight? 2 games
There was an old hotel there that had
Oh, yeah.
over across the street from my grandmother's house. They'd get rooms in there.
What was your salary as a bat boy?
Nothing. I didn't get anything. It's a privilege of getting in the game, I guess.
That's right. Trolley is still running from Jamestown to Celoron then?
They quit in '39.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, they quit in '39.
Now, you were with them 1 year?
Just that was it.
And then they moved out of town?
Then they were gone then.
Bob, I'm still trying to visualize the stadium. So, close your eyes and tell me how the right field.
Well, stadium was sitting. Let's say the lake is. This is the lake.
Right.
Stadium's over here.
Okay.
This is right field,
Okay.
and that's where the miniature railroad and the Greyhound roller coaster went in the bathhouse. Then it went out around the point here and come down here. This was left field, and that was probably the longest field, really. That was out there quite a ways. Hit the ball in the lake there. They had to go a little ways, and that's about the way it sit. And I think the grandstand probably was as big as if you took third baseline, and then around to first baseline. That's about as big as the stadium. Then it was bleachers running off both ways.
Now there was a fence, and
Just where the miniature railroad was.
that would be in right field.
Right field, all the way out to the lake.
Okay.
All the way out to the lake.
You were always hitting towards the lake, or either
Always,
right,
right.
center field.
Yeah, either way was
left field. Must have been left field had been
quite a
Burns
way.
Bay, when
Yeah,
it was
right. Out by
Burns
Erickson's
Bay.
boat livery.
Right,
Yeah.
Erickson's boat.
Yeah.
There was a row of poplar trees out
Oh
there too.
yeah, that was.
That's right, Roy. Well, left field's down where the apartments are.
Yeah. Left field out into center
I
field. Now they
remember
have
Big Bird
apartments.
hit that ball over that poplar trees. At least I think I remember it. Well, that's neat that your father kept that alive.